Ian, you go ahead and unmute and speak.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Well, if this were my dream, it would be about I guess what I would call, some people would call a spirit guardian or a wisdom deity visiting me and leaving marks in my body to guide my path through my health. And the marks would be about utilizing my body as a pathway to unacknowledged truths and possibilities. And last reflection would be about understanding that the guardian will only be as challenging and difficult as is necessary to get my attention.
All right, excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have some more?
Yes, we have Ursula. If Ursula could unmute, please. Thank you, Ian.
My dream, I would reflect first to say that I've had a very similar experience with a dolphin, almost exactly, where it grabbed my hand. And I looked into the dolphin's eyes directly and asked what it had in mind. And what was it doing? Because I didn't want it to rip my hand off or apart. And there was that meeting of eyes with the dolphin, which in the dream would be the same, meeting the eyes of this being, asking, what do you have in mind for me? And in that moment of that connection and present meeting with the dolphin let go of my hand. So I see, as this is my dream, that this is also that invitation for that connection and that stepping up to a higher, more sophisticated understanding of things that I could see through the perspective of the panther, or in my case of experience, the dolphin, and how I was going to be in the next step differently as a result. And so when I made that commitment of questioning, what is it that you are asking of me? The being, the panther, or in my case, that dolphin, let go, because they knew I was stepping forward through that doorway.
Lovely.
All right, we're fine. Now, of course, we're all proceeded listening to all of these projections, and hopefully there'll be a few of them that make sense to her if she takes the dream back. Okay, we've had 3 excellent projections. Can we have a couple more? Who would like to do the next one?
Yes, I think I see Anne. If you would like to unmute, thanks.
Okay. If this were my dream, it would be about like the dichotomy of a play versus fear. It's like being afraid of being a little too wild. You know, because she keeps going back and in the dream. If it were my dream, I'd be going back and forth between those two. You know, this. I kind of believe that the panther really wants to play, but I'm afraid it's too wild and going to hurt me. And of course, that's a part of myself too. And I guess the other thing about the marks on the hand would be, yeah, I don't know what they would be from, whether it's from playing, whether it's from the fear, from the tension. I'm not sure what that would be. But anyway, the fear of playing, being too wild.
Oh, this is excellent. People are really catching on to the projection. Okay, do we have another one?
Woody, if you could unmute, please. We hear Woody's.
Sure. Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hadn't tested my mic. The thing that I'm immediately aware of as I look at this dream as if it were mine, it feels like it's talking about the difference in you know, there's sort of the other, whether or not it's the public or teachers or people in power who are, you know, kind of telling me the thing that I'm working with is dangerous and I shouldn't be too cavalier with it. And then I find that when I get involved with it, yes, it makes a change in me. So that's kind of the tooth marks that I'm seeing in my hand. But it also it's not as harmful as I thought it might be. So it's like I've touched something that has power. So I have to have some sense of sacredness about it, because there is, like, I can see that this thing could take me over, but also I can see that this thing could be, we could have a playful relationship in which, as long as I treated it with that same reverence, it wouldn't hurt me, but it would instead create change in me. And this can be, I mean, I can bring it down to a lot more concrete things. Like I can think about this talking about psychedelics, or I can think about this talking about some kind of practice that I feel maybe someone has told me is dangerous. But you know, sort of internally, I know it's okay, even though the public at large is telling me don't mess with that. So I think that's what comes up for me.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, very good.
Do you want
Okay.
another projection, Stan?
Yes, I do.
One more.
Yeah.
Okay. How about if Mindy could unmute for us?
Hi.
Hi.
I kind of went through this dream through a shamanic lens, so to speak, and it was pretty simple in a way. I immediately acknowledged the Black Panther as a type of medicine, and that medicine was there to help me and protect me and heal me and help me do that for other people. But there had to be this balance between mutual respect and playfulness.
Okay. Okay. These are all wonderful projections. Last chance. Does anybody else want to project? Please, the more we have, the better.
Does anybody else would like to do a projection onto the dream? You can raise your hand. Oh, okay. We've got one more. There we go.
One more, yes.
Yes.
So for me, the Black Panther, I first got the same association as the Black Panthers. So it's this powerful, bold part of me that really wants to stand against the world and assert itself in a way. For me, that's what it would represent, is courage and power and owning up to it and not being afraid to fight. Yet that energy is really playful, which is really nice. However, it's grabbing my hand in its mouth, so it's like it might be guiding me somewhere. But when it pushes on my hand, it also leaves a mark saying that, yes, of course, there's risk here and you need to take it seriously. And the damage on my thumb made me think it would be like I give a thumbs up when something's okay. Maybe letting me know that I'm using my okays too loosely. And it's warning me about being too agreeable in certain ways without really harming me, but it's still serious. And going to my parents would again be me going back to a sense of safety and acceptability and a belonging that may not be there anymore. And so it's my friend in the end. However, yeah, it's cautioning me, and I'm still dealing with my sense of how to relate to it in a way that accepts the challenge and is yet safe in a way. I don't know. That's my projection.
Thank you.
Okay.
Stan, we
Now-
have one more. Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
Please.
Patricia, if you could unmute. Thank you, Stan.
Okay. If this were my dream, what stands out the most for me is wanting to find my parents. The first part of the dream, playing with the panther and then having it show its wildness and its power and its strength, that it could hurt me, is kind of like describing a general attitude toward life that is very playful, and looking always on the positive side of things. And the dream is a kind of a warning that everything isn't as happy and safe as maybe I'm making it in my own attitude. And so when I'm looking for my parents, it shows that I need their help. I miss them. I miss the safety that we feel when we can go to our mother or our father when we get hurt. So if this were my dream, it would tell me that my attitude is okay, that I can get through life with this panther without being hurt, but I need to realize that the potential for danger is there and I have to use my discernment.
Well, thank you all. So now at this point, you give the dream back to the dreamer. And when you're ready, Lord Christine, tell us now what you think the dream means to you.
Well, I do think that this was, I do think that it expresses some fear. Fear of, and I do feel like the Black Panther had medicine involved, and I do feel like the Panther's there to help me. And I do feel like it also shows that some level of wounding and missing. I do really feel like there is a sense when I had this dream, it was shortly after my father passed away. I lost my mom at age 25. So I do feel like there is a sense of fear, the lack of safety, the lack of safety with changes happening in my life. And I think there can be also a fear of, I think discernment is part of it, a fear of maybe where I didn't discern in places in my life, I'm afraid of my own ability to do it. And maybe my parents were the ones that could help, just on a really primordial level. Without them, am I really okay? Can I make good decisions? And there is a desire to go back and connect with the Black Panther. And in fact, I've had visions of Black Panther outside of my dreams as well. So for me, the Black Panther is a sense of that deep unconsciousness and travel into the deep chaotic worlds of spirit, which can be very frightening. And at this time, I was also, dealing with spirits that are trying to hold us back and do things that don't want us to do certain kinds of work. And there's some fear about that. And I feel like the Panther is there to help me and guide me and protect me. And it does, I think it is a lot about missing my parents.
Okay, thank you. Now we're still not done, still not done. I want you to tell the group how important it is that in the first part of this method, the dreamer does not give any information about her personal life, not even when she had the dream. For all we know, this is a dream from 10 years ago. That's not important. And she gives no information about her family or her activities. That is not part of the dream. However, at this point now, she has shared information about her personal life, and so we move on to the next step. And in this step, people in the group can ask questions to the dreamer. They can be personal questions, and of course, she does not have to answer a question if she feels uncomfortable with it. So do we have any questions from any member of the group about the dreamer's interpretation of the dream and what it might mean? Well, I have a question.
Okay.
you could have had any number of images, why do you think the panther showed up? Rather than a black dog, a black snake, why a black panther?
I think because for there, I have an association to it as with it. It is with a sense of power and fighting, in a good way. Power to fight against odds or to fight against things, and there's an association to me with the spiritual realms, even the unconscious, but spiritual realms. And the speed and the power and strength of a panther.
All right, excellent. Okay, now, are you satisfied with the process, or do you have any other questions or any other loose ends to tie up before we finish?
Are you asking me, Stanley?
I'm asking you, yes.
Okay. Oh, we have a question that came up, I think. Do you want to go to that, Stan?
Another question came up. Yeah, let's hear it. Yes.
Okay. You can go ahead and unmute then, Ian.
Oh, I just had a small question. It had to do with when I was projecting into this, I missed the description of the Black Panther as being male. Is that correct? That it was male?
I think it kind of is. It feels that way. It feels like a both, but I guess male is where it's feeling. Yeah.
So then I started thinking, why did I need to be female? And then I'm wondering, and does it get you anything thinking about why it might be male?
Yes, I think it's just coming to me that I think it may be an association to my father because and my own masculine side, my own
Oh.
masculine energy.
The full.
Yes, because my father, these were back panther dreams I had right around the time after my father passed away. Thank you for that.
Okay, well, this is just the type of question that fits into this part of the process. Thank you. Any other questions before we finish? Okay.
We have one more. I see a hand, Stan.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, go ahead then. You can unmute and
Is it me?
yeah. Who do I see? Jürgen, can you see this? I can't.
Yeah.
A window
You have
popped up.
two hands, so let's start out with Kiao. You have your hand up, and then after that, Banu.
Thanks.
Sorry for the delay. I have to change computers. I think you already answered the question. And I think my question was if the panther is the afterlife, the power of the afterlife. And of course, with the other question that was answered, it's pretty clear that it's yes, but that it's your mother and your father.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're right. I mean, when I have an image of the panther in my head, there's starlight with the panther and an ability to sort of move as starlight.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I should say too that a part of my work is actually working with deceased people on the other side of the veil. So that makes sense.
Okay, Banu says her question has been answered.
By Google. Yeah, I thought leopards and panthers were different. And I was curious about the word leopard, if that's something that the interpretation might pay attention to, but they're the same apparently. So we're good.
Yeah, and it's funny because that was actually a thing that was in my head too. What's the difference between a panther and a leopard? A black panther or a black leopard? Because I get those cats, the jaguar, the cheetah, well, the jaguar, the leopard. So I was playing around with that at the time, and to me, I settled on it was the same. So I apparently wrote that. Yeah. Were there any other questions that?
Yeah, go ahead. Any other questions?
Giselle earlier wanted to share a projection. I don't know if that's still relevant.
And Anna has a question. I don't know which way we want to go with that.
You decide.
Stan, should
Okay.
we add another projection or take a question?
Go ahead, go ahead. Anything in this phase, anything goes. Go ahead.
Okay, let's take Anna's question and then we'll go back for another projection. Does that sound good?
Go ahead. Yes.
Anna, you can unmute, please.
I was struck by the scrapes on your thumb. Your thumb looked worse than any other part of your hand. In your dream, is it possible that the leopard, the panther did not hurt your thumb, but something else, harmed some aspect of yourself represented by your thumb?
Yeah, that's interesting because I remember in the dream that even though it looked a bit swollen, I wasn't very bothered by it. It was a sense of it being worth being with the panther to have a little bit of some scrapes on my thumb. And I also felt that if I hadn't resisted and tried to fight my hand back, that wouldn't have happened.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Jürgen, you said there was another projection. I don't see any other hands up.
No, there's no hand. Giselle put it in the chat. Giselle, if you want
Okay.
to share, you're absolutely welcome to do that at this moment.
Okay, there's one more step. Ready? Okay.
Okay.
Well, Christine, here's the
Stan?
final step.
Stan,
Yeah, can you hear me?
hold on just 1 second, Stan. Giselle, did you want to share a projection?
I
Go ahead.
can.
Okay, we have
Okay.
one more projection, Stanley.
Okay, fine,
Okay.
go ahead. We have time. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. So I came in while in the right at the beginning where you were describing this dream, and then I got distracted with the functionality of my screen. But and so I read through it again, and I was listening in to what everybody was saying, and for me, for me it sounds like the social struggles that that may have, the social struggles that may have been, you know very that may have been present, that I've been thinking about and experiencing. And it sounds like there's certain aspects of that socialization and with who I am as a person, from the experiences, from my history, and what my role is, um, on a personal level with society, in socialization. So the struggle there for me, is the relationship that I have with myself, and what is becoming more important, more critical, that I need to pay attention to. For me, the presentation of the recognition of me going back and asking permission to my parents represents something in me that I need permission from myself to do something, to be part of something, to engage in something, if you will, and allow myself the chance to be able to rise above whatever that is somehow creating this personal chaos, within me, and how I can make peace with that, and somehow find the resolution that I need in order for just to satisfy the issue that dream represents for me. So the need to be able to give myself permission for something, and to be able to navigate through the different doubts of the experiences, and be able to see what important aspects of these experiences am I really struggling with, what is beneath that. And for me, that representation,
is vivid because of the part where I went back to my parents to show them what just happened. So it's almost like I needed that validation, a permission for myself to be able to engage, to be able to allow myself to do something that seems to be very, very important. And there's a lot of fear and doubts there, of course. And I think that's where the struggle is. And people relate to this in different ways, of course. You have to look at your history, and really understand, the persistent struggles that you deal with on a constant basis. Some people are, it's more vivid for others, because they're constantly involving themselves in these personal reflections, and they have very viable metacognition. And so, and some people don't, they're so busy with the hustle and bustle of life, and the casual conversations that, they take a step away back from the deepness of what really these personal struggles are telling us about ourselves and about our current conditions, situations, if you will. What I heard a lot of the people say was something about, it all comes down to a generalization of a personal desire to validate myself, a personal desire to give myself permission to do something that is apparently very, very important, whether it be a personal achievement, a personal social endeavors, if you will, or perhaps a relationship that seems to be becoming more important to obtain, whether that is an external relationship with another person, or maybe it's a relationship with myself. So that would be something that I would, if it was my dream, of course, I would go into myself, utilizing expressive arts therapy, of course, and to be able to navigate through the different routes, the different aspects of myself that is really tugging up my shirt and saying, hey, 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 pay attention. This is important. And so I would probably give myself some time and space to be able to reflect through that and kind of see, do I need to be a friend to myself? Do I need to be a friend to another, if you will? So that's how I see it.
Thank you, Giselle.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Stan, I have one more hand up
Go ahead, yeah.
with a question, I think, for
Yeah, go ahead.
Chen.
Hello.
Yes, you can unmute.
My question is, because I read the description of the dream again and again, and it repeatedly gave me a feeling of contradictory feeling towards the Black Panther. So on one hand, it seems to me like it's something excited you, and something you're longing for. Maybe some part of you in your unconscious you're longing for. But on the other hand, it looks like you're scared of it, and it constantly saying it reminds you that you need to be cautious about this part of you. So I'm wondering that, is this something deeply in your unconscious you are eager to incorporate into yourself, but you're hesitating, or there's something prevents you from doing that? And that's my question.
Yes, I think that's true. It definitely reflects that and inner struggles. And I think having done work with the dream, some of those struggles there, it's a lot to, it would be a lot to go into because I did kind of, so there's some on personal levels, there's some on levels with work, there's some with levels in the way I am in the world. So I definitely think that's true. And it represents maybe things that are outside of me, supposedly, but also reflects things deeper within. And sometimes I have had, even with my work, dueling, conflicting feelings about doing it. And then it also probably reflects the inner frustrations and the anger and all of those things that can come up with different experiences that I've had. Some lack of support with some family members and things that were going on around the time I dreamed it with my dad. I cared for my dad. So I think some of that's in there. And just old energy about, having lost my mom at 25 and that's not fair. And those old feelings can keep creeping up. And now I've got no, dad's not gone. And now this is unfair. And look at all this stuff I have to sacrifice. So some of those things can come up. And definitely fear, because yeah, it's a job one has to do on their own and travel through on their own. And I think maybe my parents reflect those safety nets. And this sort of tells me I'm resisting certain things. I need to look at myself more and work out the tangles of resistance and any emotions or beliefs that might be holding me from going into the more positive aspects of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, thank
for
you,
sharing.
Jen. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any other comments before we go on to the last step? All right. Okay. So Laura, the last step, tell the group what you plan to do now with all of these insights. How can you put these to some practical use in your own life or your own understanding?
Well, I think what I would do with this is probably pull out some keywords from everybody's projections and questions, because I think everybody hit something, everybody. So I would probably first pull out keywords and maybe place them in, maybe produce a visual for myself where I place keywords or concepts and then go into each one, see what comes at me first, and then go into each one and start to explore. And I would be maybe mindful of my emotions or feelings or anything in my body that comes up while I'm doing the process. That's probably where I would start. I don't know what you think of that, Stan.
Yes, this is fine. Yes, it's perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks to the group. This worked out very, very well. Now what I want to do is just review the steps, because there's a lot of safety built into this process. And this is something you can use as a group on your own. But there are some safeties. First of all, the dreamer can stop the process at any time. Maybe things get too personal, too uncomfortable. The dreamer can say, I've learned what I need to learn. Let's stop here. Fine. Then the moderator ends the process, okay? Also, members of the group can ask the dreamer personal questions, but the dreamer does not have to answer them. This is another built-in safety device. So, given that, let's just review the steps. I served as the moderator, and of course, for this approach and for this method to work, somebody has to be the moderator. The moderator can make a projection or not, that's up to the moderator. So the moderator asks, does anybody have a dream they would like to share? Okay, somebody volunteer. So that person relates the dream. Again, I find it useful for people who have members of the group to print out their dreams so they can share you can see how useful it was to have a printed out version for work today. But in any event, the dreamer shares the dream. At this point, members of the group are invited to make their projections. Not everybody in the group needs to make a projection. This is voluntary. And of course, the more projections we have, the better it is. Okay, step number 4. The dreamer assimilates those projections and comes up with what the dream now means to her. Okay, step 5 is very open-ended. This is the point where people can make more projections, they can ask questions, they can engage in discussion with the dreamer. As I say, sometimes this is very short, sometimes it's very long, unpredictable. And then the final step, the dreamer makes a concluding statement of some sort or another. Okay, so there you have it. This is the projection method. Do you have any questions about the method itself? Okay, if not,
I have a question, Stan.
yeah, go ahead.
Would you explain the purpose of saying before you share a dream projection, the purpose of saying if it were my dream?
Oh, good heavens, yes. Yes, of course, very important question. Yes. Again, you folks met Tom Elcom and Ruth Richards yesterday. They're members of our monthly dream group who will use this method, so they know what to expect. But let's say this group has no knowledge. Yes, then before you start, the moderator needs to introduce the method so that people know what's expected of them. Good point, absolutely, yes. Okay,
Okay. And thank you, Stan.
all
Is
right.
there any more questions for Stan about the process of a dream projecting into a dream?
One thing about the process is so interesting. Sometimes somebody who's completely new to the process might make a projection that's more helpful than somebody who's been a dream worker for years. You just don't know. This is the unpredictable nature of working with dreams. Okay, I see that we're about at our halfway point. So, Jürgen, do you think we should take a 5-minute break?
I think we should take a 5-minute break and we can see, about the other dream. Stan, do you have these steps written down?
I have them written down someplace.
Okay.
Yes, give me some time and I'll find them and send them to you, sure, okay?
Okay, great. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break at this point and we will resume.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to start gathering back. Stanley, are you there?
Then you need to turn your video on again. And I cannot do that remotely, so. Stan, are you there? You may not be there yet.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll take a moment and we'll get set up.
Okay, Jürgen, can you hear me?
Yes, excellent. There you are. Okay.
Okay, we can start anytime you prefer.
Okay. I think Laura, take it away and see if we want to do one of the dreams that were up earlier. I think the person has joined us. John has joined us. So
Well, the next dream is the dad is a drug dealer dream, and I can use it even if the dreamer is not with us.
The dreamer is with us now, Stan.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, fine. All right, so let's define the dream.
So would you like me to put that on? Let me put that on the screen for you.
Okay, you can put it
For
on the screen.
everyone to see, okay?
Okay.
So I've got it up on screen, Stan. Would you like me to read it or anything like that?
I want the, if the dreamer is here, the dreamer should read it.
Okay. So
Hi, everyone. I'm John. Thank you for having me be a part of this. I'll get into it. Dad selling drugs dream. My dad, who actually died in 1993, was busted selling drugs and using cocaine with women. I think he was dead in the dream too, but somehow the case was open and the police investigated, and now I was a suspect for growing weed. I had two young lawyers, and my friends Mickey and Nancy were around. Mickey was unsure if our friend David would get me the best lawyer, and I was getting really scared, debating whether or not to take my own life or go to jail. Everything was scary, and some of the things my dad did were unimaginable. A raid on my house was painful. I just kept quiet. Not sure what it all means, but I also wonder about my dinner. The dinner that I had before the stream, it seems that the foods I eat before going to sleep can affect my dreams, whether they be serious, fun, negative, etc. The dream definitely does not reflect my dad at all. He was not like this.
Okay, fine. All right, so now members of the group have to listen and observe very carefully, because I'm going to teach you this method, the emotional bridge method, that you each can do yourself with your own dream. So, John, I would like you to review that dream and tell me more about what you described as everything was very scary. How did that make you feel? What are your body reactions that scary?
Well, at first, I really, it was one of those things where I wake up at 3 in the morning having the dream and trying to write my dreams out. So some of it, as I read it right now, it seems a little redundant. But I do remember. I mean, I have thought about the dream a lot, and quite honestly, I laughed a lot reading this. But I think there was a feeling of insecurity and knowing that, you know, at least with my dad, who was my best friend, um, and my mom is gone as well. I just felt like maybe there was no backstop or some sort of uh, I don't know, security, um, like a safety net, and therefore I think it was like, how do I feel about potentially being incarcerated or being in a place that I don't want to be, and would I rather um, take my own life, and uh, you know, which is something that I really don't believe in doing. But if forced to, like, I would, I don't know. I don't know it, but it's somewhere around, like, do I want to be, on the other side and potentially, be able to be with my loved ones, and then, potentially uh, decide what my next life is going to be. Um, I don't know if it's that simple, but uh, it was like I just didn't. I didn't want to be here if that was the circumstance. That makes sense.
Okay, now you've already alerted us to the fact that your father is not really like that, and that's going to be a big help in understanding the dream and why you had it. Also, you mentioned that sometimes what you eat influences the dream. Absolutely. Remember, an hour and a half ago, I said dreaming is thinking and then feeling in a different neurochemical state. Well, so obviously, if you eat something unusual, yes, that could very well affect your dream. Or if you're in another part of the country, another part of the world on a different time schedule, yes, that alone can affect the dream. So there are a lot of circumstantial factors that play a role in how the dream unfolds. Okay, given that, what I'd like you to do, John, is to imagine that you're having that scary feeling right now, and when it's comfortable for you, describe how it feels to you, what your reaction is, even what your body reaction is.
Give me a second, if you will.
Take your time, yes.
I think what comes to me first is less of what my body feels like. It's more of a what's in my mind, and the feeling um, of being alone or without someone like a parent or potentially friends that would be able to help me get out of this situation, and in a situation of
Okay, no, those are words. I want to focus on the feeling, not the logic, not the words. How
okay.
do you feel that emotion?
Thank you for clarifying. I feel sad and lonely and confused.
Okay, fine. Okay, John, what I want you to do now is to take that feeling back into time, as far back as you can reliably remember, and try to recall something in your life where you had a similar feeling.
I'm having a little bit of trouble getting there quickly.
Well, remember, you don't have to be there quickly. You take your time.
Hmm.
You can't rush the dream. And also, you have to remember that you might have repressed those memories,
Mhm.
and that might play a part. So all you need to do is to find something that was not repressed and something is a valid memory. And if you can't remember something from your childhood, remember something from a more recent experience.
I was actually gonna say, because I think you know, I was gonna say that that I have had a past life regression experience, and I was in a cave that collapsed, and I saw myself die in that cave and take my last breath of air. And so I have a problem with being confined, and I'm claustrophobic.
Okay, this is fine. And if you had to describe what beliefs you had concerning that episode, how would you describe it?
Are you describing the past life regression?
Yes, exactly.
How would I describe it? Are you talking about like what was the scenario, or what was my feeling at the time?
You combine them. Of course, you want to know the scenario, but it has to be linked to the feeling. Sure.
Well, I feel like I was alone uh, in the woods, and I did go. Uh, uh, I saw myself as a bear, and I was in the woods, and I went and was able to retrieve some fish from a stream, and then I went into the cave for for what I expected to be or thought to be hibernation. And the cave was dark, and like I said, I was alone. And I remember the earth shifting, and when the cave started to collapse, there was no way out for me. So there was a fear and an anxiety, and sort of a defining moment of knowing that that I was most likely trapped and going to die in that cave, and that's exactly what happened. And when I did die in that cave, it wasn't like a movie or a television show where you just cut to a black screen. It was me actually watching and feeling like I was taking my last breath. And so there was a finality to it that was very visceral.
Okay, so can we take a few words and tell me this is accurate? I felt that there was no way out for me.
Correct.
Okay, now stay with that feeling and see if it relates to anything going on more recently in your life. Let's say yes, it's from your past life, but is there any experience in your current life, past or present, where you felt the same way that there is no way out for you?
No, I don't. I honestly don't think anything in the present is like that for me. Um, I do feel. I mean, I love this lifetime. It's great. I've had a lot of great times and met beautiful people. But there's a part of me that wants to move on. But I'm not going to take my own life to do it. I'm really sort of excited for what's next. And so in a way, I'm just, I'm doing everything I can to make this lifetime the best it can be. But I'd be,
Okay, well,
holding.
this is excellent. This is just what I
Yeah.
need to know. Good, okay. So now, let us take another look at your dream. And in the dream, is there any part of the dream in which you see that there is no way out?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely would I shouldn't say I definitely would. I don't know, and because I haven't been in that such scenario, but to me, as far as looking at this or having the dream and thinking about it, I would do everything I could to not be, locked up in a jail cell or confined. That's I wouldn't want that to be um something that I would that that where I would be living my life in that way, because I just I have like anxiety even thinking about being locked up, but uh and I'm not doing anything to get locked up. So just to set that straight. But you know, like I said in the dream, if there was a if I had to make a choice of going to jail for, whatever the time would be, if it was, let's just say it was an extended amount of time, or taking my own life, I feel like I would probably take my own life.
All right, so it's fair to say that you have been living your own life, obviously quite successfully, in such a way that you need never worry about being locked up again, as you were in a past life.
I would say that's pretty accurate. Yes.
Okay, so the dream might simply be a reminder that what you're doing is working for you, and so you need not worry about being a situation that did you in a past life. Does that make sense to you?
It does, yes.
Okay. And the dream, of course, pulls upon a lot of information from your unconscious. And of course, that can include issues from one's past life. And you might say, well, this is quite a brutal reminder, but you see, it has to be brutal, it has to be emotional. Just using words alone without the feeling is not going to be sufficient to remind you. You follow?
Yes, I follow that.
Okay, good. So, the dream really is not about your dad. Your dad is a template for this reminder. Now, it could have been anybody else. Why do you think your dad played this role in the dream, seeing that this is nothing like your dad in real life? Why did the dad image serve the purpose?
Wow. I'm not sure, but if I had to right now on the spot think about it, it could be that my dad was someone who was the opposite of someone who was in this in my dream. And so it was shocking to see him in that situation. And maybe that's correlating with what you were saying is the you know the brutal nature of the reminder is potentially part of what's uh, causing me to focus more on or pay attention to this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense, sure. And I'm also going to conjecture that this dream was very therapeutic in terms of the residuals from this horrific past life experience. And so the dream not only was a reminder, it was also in some way a healing for you. Now, you contributed 2 dreams. We don't want to take the time to go into the other dream, but you see any similarity with the other dream that you presented?
Yeah. I put in the second dream? Which one was I forgot? I did send over, so
That was the police lineup dream, John.
oh yeah, yeah.
Do you want to put that up? John, is that okay if we show that dream?
Sure.
Okay, let me just put that up. One second, sorry. Can everyone see that?
Yes, I can see it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
You want me to read this?
Okay, now, take a look at this dream. And can you identify the strongest emotion from this dream?
Sure, this dream was this was almost like a visit as opposed to a dream. Seeing my dad across the room, smiling, no words being said. And we were just pretty locked in, looking at each other. And there was happiness, and he gave me this, like a stone, looked like a something sort of turquoise, and it was a beautiful moment. It was really, really nice. And then, as I said here, like a couple of days later after the dream, a friend of mine gave me a bracelet with a very similar stone. And I was totally surprised by that. So it was great to see him looking good and smiling. But like I said, there were no words exchanged on his side. I kept telling him I love him, and it was really, really sweet. Like it was a great visit, I would say.
Okay, you still have that bracelet.
Yeah, I have it. Yep.
Have you put it to use in any way?
That's it right there.
Okay, there we have it. I think that to make a suggestion, because this dream was a lucid dream, it had a very different feel to it than the other dream. But I'm glad we remember this dream because that bracelet with the gemstone in it can be helpful at a deep unconscious level to resolve the pain and the entrapment from that past life.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggest that this is actually a healing dream, not for this life, but for the past life. Does that make sense to you?
It does very much.
Okay. So now if you have similar dreams in the future, you can ask yourself, is this dream an attempt at a very, very deep unconscious level to help resolve that entrapment that did me in a past life? Yeah, you don't need healing in this life, but that past life might still require some healing.
Interesting. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, John. And now I'm going to turn the attention to the group because I'm going to guide you through a similar process. As I said earlier, when you start to work with dreams, you have no idea what's going to come up. How did we know that John was going to make the connection to the past life? Good heavens, what a surprise. But you can see how it all worked out. And there might even be more dreams that he's forgotten. But these two dreams, I think, are very pivotal. Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, thank you. This is very helpful.
Thank you all.
All right, so now I'm going to turn my attention to the group as a whole. And I'm going to have each of you use one of your dreams. If you've never remembered a dream in your life, make up a dream, okay? Preferably, this should be a dream that has some emotion or feeling in it, either positive or negative. take a few minutes and see if you can identify that. Don't worry, this is not something you need to share with the entire group unless you want to. This is for your own edification. I actually used this method myself to deal with a very surprising dream I had a few nights ago. But like with all methods, one never knows if it will work or not. That's why it's so useful to have a variety of methods to unpack the dream and understand the dream. Okay, now let me take you step by step through the process. I'm talking now to the group as a whole. Review the dream and identify the strongest emotion in that dream. Positive, negative, both, doesn't matter as long as there was some feeling in the dream. If you don't remember feeling in the dream, make it up. Your imagination can fill in the blanks. Okay, so now take that feeling back into time. Most people find the experience from their childhood. Others find it from a more recent experience, going back maybe a year or two ago. Others find it in other phases of your life. Doesn't matter. And remember, you might be repressing memories, so just don't let that bother you. Try to come up with some memory that matched the feeling in your dream and focus on that memory. And imagine as much as you can imagine about that memory. You can imagine maybe how you looked during that experience. How tall or short you were, even what you might have been wearing, how you did your hair. Were you alone or were there other people with you? So now, ask yourself, what did I learn from that experience? What came out of that experience for me? Positive, negative, both, whatever. And how you put that lesson into just a few words. Like Johnston, I was entrapped, there was no way out. Very succinct. Yours might be more positive, it might also be negative, might be both, doesn't matter. How would you put the outcome of that experience in a few words? So now ask yourself, are those few words still a part of my life? Are they still influencing my behavior? Or have they since been resolved? Okay, so now bring those few words into your present life and into the dream that you remembered. Do those help you to explain the dream? Maybe before you explain the dream, fine. Well, does this add any dimension to the understanding? Each person will have this experience in a different way, of course. Okay, so now we're going to review the steps. Select a dream that has some feeling, emotion, or mood associated with it, and take that feeling back into time. A few days ago, a few months ago, a few years ago, a few decades ago, into a past life, whatever. And ask yourself, what came out of that experience for you? You didn't know it at the time, perhaps, but what came out of that experience for you, and how do you put that in just a few words? This is what I personally call a personal myth. It might or might not be accurate, but that's the nature of myth. You never know. Okay, take that personal myth into your present life. Is that still affecting your life, positive or negative, or not at all? And then apply it to your dream. Does it help you to make more sense out of your dream? Okay, so that is the method. And now, if there is somebody who would like to share your experience, go ahead. Again, you're not, no pressure. Just for another example, is there anybody who'd like to share that experience with the group?
If anyone would like to share their, oh, we have Mindy. Mindy, you can go
Well,
ahead and unmute. Go.
My dream was kind of short, so but it was intense, so I thought that maybe it would be helpful. In the dream, I was being chased in a war zone, and I was trying to get a woman to safety, and we were running and hiding in fear. Am I supposed to go on with it? Like what?
No, keep going. This is fine. Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So the identified emotion was fear. I took that back in time, and it was that running and hiding and trying to get away. I took that back in time and remembered somewhere between the ages of 7 and 10, I did something wrong apparently, and my mom was chasing me with a hickory, a switch, and I ran and got up on the top bunk of mine and my sister's bunk beds and tried to get as far away from the door as I could. But then I felt alone and I felt trapped and was just waiting to be hurt by my mother. I had the thought that there was no way out. I'm trapped. Are the words still a part of my life, affecting my behavior, or have they been resolved? And does this explain the dream? This does explain the dream. There had been a situation in my life where I did feel trapped not too long ago, but I realized in my practical life that I wasn't trapped and that the bad guys or my abusive mom can't get me. So I would say it was resolved.
Oh, good heavens. All right. This is such a good example. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
this, of course, goes back to what I said at the beginning of our time together. One of the functions of the dream is healing. And dreams often serve a healing purpose at deep levels that we're not capable of doing in our ordinary waking life. And I think that this dream and the way you reacted to it is a good example. So thank you very much. That helps a lot. Yes. Okay. Do we have any, first of all, do we have any questions about the method? Or does anybody else want to share a dream with us? Either way, any questions or any volunteers? Either way.
Looks like we have one more share.
Okay.
Hello, this is really, really interesting because I very quickly grabbed my dream diaries next to my bed, and I got one from February 3rd, 2020, which was a Monday, and it's the number 4 Xochitl on the Mexican calendar. So I had 2 dreams culminating in the last one where I was an eagle. I believe I had a partner that I communicated with. I believe at one point I was a delivery person similar to the post office. I had a route that was around a square block. I would fly at amazing speeds, amazing heights and descents. And I can remember it now, 4 years later. So in the exercise, the doctor presented to us to try and remember something similar in my previous life. When I was a little boy, like maybe 10 years old in Canada, we would go to very steep descents and I would put on my runners that were smooth and we would ski down the hill. And we would maybe hit a bump or something, but it was like an adrenaline adventure exercise. I really liked it. So again, when Stanley was asking more how it could be applied to these times, I find it really interesting because I'm about to get, pretty soon, I believe I'll be flying to Medellin, Colombia. And I also specifically to deal with partners and stuff like this, and also in remote viewing. Bill Ray, who's one of the really old first remote viewers, explained to us that the people that like adrenaline, it's really common that we like these adventures because, of course, remote viewing, a part of your soul connects very, very far in distance. So how can I make it? I'll go through the questions the doctor asked. Is it still affecting my life? I want it to. Does it help you to make sense of your dream? Very much so back then and even now. Have they since been resolved? The nice thing is they were resolved then, but I'm going to resolve them now. In other words, I'm going to still use it. So bring those few words into your present life and into your dream. So let me try and find really quickly what the words are because I wrote them. Sorry, guys. Okay, good sense of humor and fun adventure, and take and use this now. That's basically it.
Okay, well, this is very articulate. Thank you so much. We could all benefit from that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, do you have any other questions about the method or any other examples before we move on?
I think we have one more person that could share, Stan, if you're okay with that.
Go ahead, sure.
Okay, I think that's Giselle, is that right?
Go ahead.
Right. Okay, so there's this dream that I have that's been consistent in my dreams. However, it really doesn't reflect when you look directly into my real personal and professional life. It really doesn't reflect that. So I know that there's still a lot of, deep feelings that I have been holding on to, suppressing, and have not given it voice just yet. And until now, I haven't really given it the full voice that it needs, but for it to materialize. But in my dream, there's this person who um I have this deep love for. And in my dream, I do everything in my power, in my ability to catch this person's attention, his attention. And and to me in that dream, it's working. It's working. I'm getting his attention. He's looking. He looks at me and smiles at me when I see him. He talks to me. He spends time with me, validates me, everything. However, for some reason, he's not able to speak. So, I mean, he communicates through his actions. Visits me, smiles, holds my hand, touches my elbow. But he's not able to speak his emotions or affection for me. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I do this? And because it felt like it's a dream in a dream. In my dream, I'm thinking that this is probably not real then. Because if he's not able to convey his feelings, and this is just that limitation part in that topic, then perhaps this is just a dream. And so, and so because the dream brings so much comfort and warmth and love for me, I literally find myself, and this is the real truth part to this whole story, wanting to sleep more. Because in the dream reflects um a part of my life that seems to be, I may have an answer for it already as I'm speaking, a part of my life that seems to be still needing some attention. And so instead of living my life in my conscious state, right, going to work, meeting people, doing the things that I need to do every day for myself, I'm finding that, oh, I'd rather take a nap, or I want to sleep some more. I don't want to get up yet, just so that I can go back to this dream. Because that dream literally comes to me, not every single time, of course, but it has come to me a lot of times within the span of years, actually. And so, and every so often I would And you know, and I've been thinking about it and thinking about it, and it's almost like I don't want to move on from it. And it almost stops me from wanting to do other things in my life, right? Um, Not because of depression or anything, or not having the motivation to, but because there's a strong force within me that's saying, well, hold on a minute, you know. And so this is where my dream is a lot better than my reality, because in this dream my romantic life is fulfilled. However, there's still that part that is needed in that dream. So in essence, I guess it really is not completely fulfilled, and it needs something else.
Uh-huh. Oh, this is wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Stan.
All right. Now, any other comments? If not, we're going to move on. Okay.
Stan, we have one more share. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, Patricia has a share.
I just have a question. I missed the title of the third method.
This is the emotional bridge method.
Emotional bridge?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to shift our focus a little bit. Remember, beginning of the day, I said that dreaming is thinking and feeling in a different neurochemical state. Now, let me take that a step further. To the best of our knowledge, there is a wakefulness sleep cycle. In the sleep cycle, there are several stages. We don't need to go into detail. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in one of those stages, rapid eye movement sleep occurs. This is where our most vivid dreams happen. But we are thinking and feeling all night long. You wake up somebody from a different state, they will not give you a vivid dream, but they might say, oh, I was thinking about the present I need to give to my sister for her birthday, something like that. Well, that is thinking and feeling. If you want to call it a dream, you can, but it's not the vivid dream that we've been dealing with today. So mentation, thinking and feeling, do occur all night long. If they didn't, we'd be in a coma or dead. Now, I said that dreams originate in what we can call the old brain. Specifically, a little gland called the pons, P-O-N-S. Moving up to the midbrain, the hippocampus and the amygdala. Hippocampus stores memories. Amygdala stores emotions. And then it goes to the cortex, mainly the frontal cortex, and this creates the story. Now, of course, this is a simplification, but you can see that the whole brain is involved in one way or another in dreaming. So now, let's take a look at post-traumatic stress disorder nightmares. I've written widely about this so other people when somebody has a severe traumatic experience, of course, the brain and body try to resolve that trauma, but sometimes it is simply too much. And this is what we call post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. In PTSD nightmares, yes, there's an attempt to resolve the trauma, going from the pons to the midbrain, and that's where it gets stuck. The emotion is so severe, so overpowering, it cannot move on to the cortex. The memory in the hippocampus, so vivid, it cannot move on to the cortex. And so in the typical PTSD nightmare, you don't have images, you don't have symbols. It's just the old damn trauma over and over and over again. The brain and body are trying to resolve that trauma, but it's too much. It's too severe, too overpowering. And so this is why if you have clients with PTSD nightmares, the nightmare pretty typically is a replay of the trauma, the combat trauma, the accident trauma, the earthquake trauma, whatever it was that traumatized them. So, in my book, Understanding Suicide Allure, I come up with a procedure dealing with PTSD nightmares. Most therapists ignore the nightmares. They focus on resolving the trauma and say, well, the nightmares will disappear on their own. Yes, probably so. But I would prefer to start out working with the nightmare. And once the nightmare is resolved, then everything else will fall into place, because the trauma will have been resolved in dreams, not in nightmares. So in a PTSD nightmare, let's just say the combat soldier comes back home and cannot forget the time when he shot and killed a child, thinking the child was carrying a bomb, when actually the child was carrying a toy. He cannot get over that guilt, that shame, that trauma. So my suggestion is to have that client reimagine the nightmare, but make a positive change in it, such as apologizing to the girl. It was not your fault. You and I were both casualties of war, and I will make this up to you in some way. I will spend some time every month working with orphaned children in a nearby orphanage, and that will be my way of helping resolve the guilt that I feel. This is just one, of course, many, many, many examples. Let us say that somebody was traumatized by an earthquake, and they have nightmares about that earthquake over and over again. They actually saw the earth opening up. They saw people being swept into the chasm. They just cannot get that out of their memory and their emotion. Well, of course, you cannot change the fact of the earthquake, but you can address the earthquake and think, well, this is a force of nature. I could not predict it. I could not resolve it. I just have to accept it and acknowledge it. Yes. People do not control what happens on the earth. People are part of the earth, not the masters of the earth. And sometimes hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis happen. And if you're caught up in it, you can be traumatized. However, the way out of this trauma is simply acceptance. That's the way things are. That's the way the world works. The world is full of surprises, positive, negative. I have to accept it. And by accepting it and imagining being in that earthquake and saying, yes, this is terrible, but that's the way things are. Let's move on. Both of these examples, hopefully, will allow that dream to complete its cycle and move on to the cortex, where it can be put into more symbolic terms. That's one of the functions of dreams, is for condensation, taking something complicated and condensing it, and then it is on its way to being resolved. So that is a quick education on PTSD nightmares. And by the way, there's no such thing as a traumatic event. The event is simply the way things are. There is a traumatic experience. The way people experience a trauma differs from person to person. Many people can come through an earthquake, no side effects. Well, the earthquake was not traumatizing to them. For other people, it became a traumatic experience. So events are not experiences. And once you understand that, you're more able to deal with people who have been traumatized by an event, and as a result, they have a traumatic experience, and then this can be useful to know for psychotherapy. Okay, once again, that's a short course, but let's see if we have any questions or comments.
If anyone has questions or comments for Stan, if you could just raise your hand so I can see you.
Or we can have questions on any other topics of the dream world. We still have a couple of minutes before we end for the day. We haven't had a chance to talk about lucid dreaming. And back when I was in college, our professor said people that claim they're awake in their dreams, they're lying. You can't possibly be awake in their dreams. Well, now we know there can be. And the International Association for the Study of Dreams, of which I'm a member, has every year a symposium on lucid dreaming. There are even people like Ryan Hurd, who was with us yesterday, who teach lucid dreaming. And in a lucid dream, you can solve problems, you can have adventures, all sorts of fun if you want to. So lucid dreaming has now finally, after all of these decades of being ignored, come into its own as its own special state of consciousness. Also, as you heard Deidre at the beginning of the hour talk about, I have done considerable work about precognitive dreams. Again, when I went to college, this is completely, oh, you can't possibly dream about the future. Well, indeed you can. And as you heard a while ago, you can even dream about a possible past life. You can do all sorts of things in dreams, simply denied decades ago. And worse yet, there are respectable scientists decades ago that dreams have no meaning. They're simply random activities of the brain, they're best off forgotten. Well, you can't tell that to a clinician who works with dreams as a part of their psychotherapy. So I've really survived all of this nonsense about dreams to get to the present state of affairs where I think we are having a handle on how dreams evolve over the course of time. That reminds me, do animals dream? Depending on how you define the dream, yes. Our little friends, the rats, can have electrodes put into their heads, and when they have rapid eye movements, one can actually get a handle on what they're dreaming about. In one experiment, actually several experiments, rats were taught to run through a maze to get trees on the other side. And they rehearsed this time and time again. The maze changed, they had to learn new mazes, and once they learned it, they were able to get to the trees. And their brain waves were measured, and their mentation was measured by the electrodes. At night, they had rapid eye movement sleep, and lo and behold, the brain waves are the same as what happened when they found the trees. So the little rats are rehearsing. They didn't want to forget the maze that would bring them the trees. And so dreaming served their useful purpose for the little rats. Anybody who has a pet dog, though that sometimes dogs whimper when they're asleep, well, they're probably dreaming. There's even evidence that birds have a very short period of rapid eye movement sleep. Much less all of the primates and all of the mammals, and believe it or not, there even is evidence that spiders enter into a restful state of consciousness, which, to use a stretch, some people call dreaming. I wouldn't go that far, but some people do. So yes, spiders have mentation. All forms of life have some sort of mentation or feeling broadly defined. This is an incredible new approach to dreams that finally science is catching up on and revealing so much more about consciousness than we thought was possible. Okay, let me pause again, see if we have any questions.
We do. So it looks like I think I have Ian or Ian first.
Hi, Stan, I have just a general question. It's like I've seen so many different people work with people, both individually and in groups with dreams, particularly around issue of repressive memory or things that are less conscious. And I was wondering, what is your personal philosophy towards working with people that maybe, to your mind, exhibiting signs of repression, but they don't seem to acknowledge it themselves? I know, like, I think about Carl Rogers, he says you shouldn't go only one level deeper than the client. What's your feeling about this?
Well, thank heavens I'm not a psychotherapist, so I don't have to deal with that myself. But yes, I do have some opinions. First of all, as you know, I was a close friend of Carl Rogers, and so anything he says does make sense to me. And frankly, I think his advice is very, very wise on that topic. And let me tell you why. I think there's been a lot of nonsense circulating about repressed, so-called repressed memories. And sad to say, when you look at the literature, there have been some adults whose psychotherapists have pushed. Well, I think you're repressing a memory of childhood abuse. Oh yes, I remember my mother was whipping me. Nonsense, their imagination. And whole families have been ruined by improper psychotherapy. Look, if your mother is whipping you, You're not going to repress that. You're going to remember it for the rest of your life. That's the way memory works. Elizabeth Loftus, a friend of mine, is the probably major living expert on memory. And this is what she says. It's just not my opinion. So I don't think that therapists have to push to uncover a so-called repressed memory. There's a lot happening that they do remember that's fodder for psychotherapy. So there you have it.
Thank you.
And then we have Kiao. If you want to unmute.
Sure, I'll try and be quick. I think it's good for people to read the 6 pages of Dream Theory in Malaya by Kilton Stewart, because I got lucky enough to live with Seltal Maya people, traditional native people. And their way of acting and interacting socially is very different from ours. But they had a really good dream recall. In other words, it was normal that they would sit down in social groups at night, the women with the women, the men with the men, the kids playing, but they would be discussing their dreams and using it much the way you presented here today. So I have 2 questions. One, do you have any good suggestions for remembering your dreams? And then maybe somehow some sort of suggestion or experience or history or book to look for about people in this society, this modern Western society, where they've, well, I guess you guys are already doing this, I'm just realizing it, but where people can form groups and start communicating about their dreams to progress as groups.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Wonderful. And as some of you know, I've been a big advocate of decolonizing psychology. Psychology is locked into a Western tradition. Westerners think they know it all. But indigenous traditions have a lot to teach us. And there are whole dream societies. Yes, like the Tamar in Malaysia, for example, other dream societies around the world, where people, whole families will sit down in the morning and discuss their dreams. And we talked about shamanism yesterday. The shamans receive a lot of their power from their dreams and a lot of their insight from the dreams. There is actually a wonderful book just called Dreaming, one word, and each chapter deals with how a different society in a different part of the world works with dreams. Remarkable. So, Western psychology doesn't have all the answers about anything. A lot of indigenous societies have much better ways of dealing with trauma, dealing with telepathy, dealing with precognition, dealing with dreams about the future. Good heavens, there's so much you can learn from studying these societies, and you have had the great fortune of having a first-hand experience that which, well, obviously not everybody can have that first-hand experience, but they can at least read about it. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Stan, could you repeat the name of that book one more time, please?
One title, Dreaming. And an anthropologist was the editor. I can track it down, but you can go to the internet right now and enter the word dreaming, a book by an anthropologist, and see if you come up with.
Yes, we'll do that and see if we can get that in the chat. And I have another question, hand raised, if you're ready to go on. How about Dan? If you want to unmute, Dan.
Yeah. Hi there, everyone. Just calling from England. Stan, I've got a question, which is, do you know of any lucid dreamers who have had a near-death experience? And do you think this has changed how they experience the NDE, if that makes sense? So I'm thinking about like the bardos from Tibetan dream yoga and whether this could be applied to any modern day lucid dreamers and who have experienced a near-death experience.
I think that this is a good question because there are so many varieties of consciousness, and oftentimes they overlap. As I think most of you know, in a near-death experience, people either come close to death or been actually pronounced dead, and then they come back to life. And oh my God, I saw my relatives on the other side. I saw the tunnel I was going through to the light. Sometimes it's not so pleasant. Usually it is a little more pleasant, but oftentimes it changes their life and gives them a greater acceptance of the death that inevitably comes. So near-death experience has now become a very vital topic for scientists from different parts of the spectrum. Some of them belittle near-death. Oh, this is just the draft of a dying brain that's running out of oxygen. But no, this is not the way to look at it. It's really a transpersonal experience. The important thing to know is near-death experiences are now on the map as a valid topic for scientific study. Now, how does this tie into lucid dreaming? Actually, sometimes people have a lucid dream in which they had a near-death experience in the lucid dream without actually dying, of course. And this is one of those overlaps. You can even have a dream about a near-death experience without it being lucid. You remember it in the morning. Now, I think that near-death experience is not exactly the right word to use to describe these dreams, but you can see how these different domains of consciousness constantly interact. Good question, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stan, do you happen to remember if the Dreaming book was edited by Barbara Tedlock by chance? The Dreaming book by the anthropologist?
Barbara Tedlock, you found it.
Okay.
Yeah, Barbara Tedlock.
We had somebody find it and put it in the chat.
Several years, but that's a very valuable book. Yes, yes. Barbara Tedlock, thank you.
So that is in the chat for anyone who wants to look. We've had somebody put that in, so thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Stanley about dreams, either what we've done or any other question? Oh, any other questions? Looks like Woody, if you want to, I'd like to unmute.
So I'd like to go back to the use of the method with the PTSD nightmare dream. You talked about sort of like changing the narrative in some way of maybe a traumatic nightmare, but when it came to the natural disaster or something of that nature, are you giving the suggestion to the person that, you know, this is just the way things are? Are you trying to sort of elicit some kind of insight in that person so that they understand that? And what is your role as the person who's mediating that experience?
I think that I need to emphasize the point, I'm not a psychotherapist. So
Sure.
I don't have to adhere to any particular framework. But let me tell you where I'm coming from with this advice. Albert Ellis was a very good friend of mine, and he is the founder of cognitive behavioral therapy, as you most know. And in approaching psychotherapy with his clients, The first step, he said, was acceptance. Accept yourself the way you are. Not like the way you are, but you have to accept it. Then you have to accept other people. You might not like what they've done to you, but that's the reality. You accept the way they are. And then you have to accept the world. You might not like the way the world is going. Accept it. Then maybe you can make some changes. Okay. So an earthquake happens and you're traumatized, accept it. Yes, that's the way things are accepted. Don't attribute it to some supernatural force. Well, this is God at work punishing the evildoers, or this is the demonic curse God. That's too complicated for me. This is simply the way nature works. People are not in control of their world. You can't fight Mother Nature.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
We have another question here with Dan. Stan.
Hey, yeah, thanks. Stan, I've just got one more question. And yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to speak to it, but could you comment on the impact of plant medicines or psychedelics, on their impact on dream content, or yeah, like the phenomenology of dreams? I'm just thinking about, I read Davy Koppenauer's book, The Amazonian Shaman, and he would frequently talk about ingesting a DMT containing snuff before his dreams. And he said it was only really in his dreams that the spirits would visit him. He would only really have these big kind of visual journeys when it was really in his dreams. So I'm just wondering if you have anything to comment on that.
Yes. Again, remember we were talking about how indigenous people have so much knowledge. Jeremy Narby, N-A-R-B-Y, good friend of mine, an anthropologist. He's been to the Amazon several times. He's written a wonderful book about the ayahuasca worldview, the worldview that you will learn after taking ayahuasca. There's also another book, Psychedelic Philosophy, how what you learn in psychedelics can provide a worldview. And of course, dreams are a part of that. As some of you know, I've been an advocate of psychedelic research since 1962, when I had the psilocybin experience at Harvard University. I'm so glad I lived long enough to see some significant work being done. My one contribution was the series of articles I wrote about artists and musicians who said that their psychedelic experience had impacted their art. Well, that's all a matter of record, and we don't have time to discuss all of that today. There have been too few studies on your topic. Some studies indicate that when somebody goes to sleep after taking LSD, their rapid eye movement period expands. Now, does the dream change also? Not, I'm sure it does. Not enough research has been done on that particular topic. Many people who I know personally do have dreams about their psychedelic experience, and why not? This is an attempt, again, of the brain and body to integrate positive things that they have learned in those experiences, ayahuasca, LSD, psilocybin, mushrooms, whatever. I'm so glad that this whole topic finally is getting the attention it has long since deserved. And the interaction between dreams and psychedelics, a frontier that has yet to be explored. Hope it is someday.
Great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Stan. We're running out of time. Do you want to say some final words here before we close?
Well, yes, I'm wearing a shirt today which had a mola in it. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about the Kuna Indians in Panama, and this is a mola that depicts their worldview. It's applique, layer after layer of colorful fabrics cut and pasted and sewed, and many molas present their dreams about power animals, power birds, and the like, all forces of nature. So, by coincidence, this little t-shirt, not by coincidence, deliberate, this shirt I'm wearing today pulls together both shamanism and dreams, which has been the topic of this wonderful program that you're going to arrange for us all.
Well, thank you so much, Stan. Thank you so much, Laura, for facilitating and making this session happening. Thank you, everybody who has shared their dreams and allowed this fruitful conversation to happen. This afternoon, there will also be an experiential part from a more somatic perspective, working with the dream body. We'll start again at 3 o'clock. There are 3 presentations, one about the felt sense of the imaginal realms and why it matters, one about the dream body and dreams, heart knowing, and transsubjectivity. And then we will again have a chance to work with dreams. So I look forward to seeing you this afternoon. Thank you so much, Stan. Thanks everybody for being here and sharing in this really productive, wonderful, and inspiring session. See you this afternoon.